Most men open their phone the moment they feel discomfort. Most men refresh their notifications when silence feels like a threat. Most men need the noise, the buzz, the scroll, the distraction, just to feel like they exist. But you already know that is not you, or at least, it is not the man you are becoming. There is a type of man who walks through the chaos of 2026, the endless feeds, the group chats, the algorithmic noise, and feels none of it pulling at him. He is not cold. He is not detached. He is simply anchored, and what anchors him is not a personality trait. It is a discipline, a philosophy, a way of seeing that most men are never shown. What you are about to hear is not motivation. It is not a list of habits to copy. It is a set of principles forged by men who faced war, exile, slavery, and empire, and refused to be broken. These are the principles of Stoicism. And there is one in particular that almost no one talks about. A principle so quietly devastating that once you understand it, you will never react the same way again. Stay with me, because this changes everything. Principle 1. The Citadel Within. In 2026, the first battle of your day begins before you even open your eyes. Your phone is already waiting. Notifications stacked. Group chats flooded. Someone has already posted something designed to make you react. And the average man, the man who has not built his inner citadel, surrenders immediately. He opens the phone. He lets the world write the first line of his story. Marcus Aurelius began every single morning differently. Before meetings with senators, before commanding legions, before deciding the fate of millions, he sat a day. He thought. He reminded himself of what was within his control and what was not. He started each day by practicing smallness, by choosing where his attention went before the world could choose for him. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. The modern application of this is brutally simple. Do not touch your phone for the first 30 minutes of your morning. Not to check messages. Not to see who liked what. Not to scan headlines. Instead, sit. Breathe. Ask yourself one question. What kind of man do I want to be today? Not what do I need to do. Not what am I worried about. Who do I want to be? This single question, asked with sincerity, begins to rebuild your identity from the inside out. Most men feed their anxiety before they have even stood up. You will feed your purpose. Most men let the algorithm decide what matters. You will decide. And that gap, that small but enormous gap, is where elite character is quietly constructed, day after day, before the world wakes up. But here is what nobody warns you about once you start doing this. The silence itself will feel like a test. Principle 2. The discipline of non-reaction. Imagine this. You post something thoughtful, a piece of work you are proud of, a perspective you carefully considered. And within minutes, someone in the comments reduces it to mockery. A stranger with no name and no face decides your effort is worthless. What happens inside you in that moment? If you are honest, you feel the pull, the tightening, the sudden urge to respond, to defend, to prove. That pull is not weakness. It is biology. Your nervous system cannot distinguish between a physical threat and a digital insult. Both activate the same ancient alarm. The difference between a reactive man and a composed man is not that the composed man does not feel it. He feels it fully. He simply refuses to be led by it. Epictetus, a man who was born a slave, who was physically broken by his master, who had every reason to be consumed by rage, developed what modern neuroscience now calls the stimulus-response gap. Between what happens to you and how you respond, there is a space. In that space is your freedom. In that space is your power. Most men never find that space because they have never practiced holding it open. It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. Epictetus, the practical discipline is this. When provoked, online, at work, in a relationship, in traffic, you do not respond for 10 seconds. Not as weakness. Not as avoidance. As practice. You breathe. You ask, is this worth my energy? Is this within my control? And if the answer is no, and it almost always is, you return to yourself. Quietly, completely, without announcement. In 2026, where outrage is the currency and reaction is the product, a man who does not react becomes something rare. He becomes dangerous in the most dignified sense of the word. People notice. They do not always know why, but they sense the stillness in him. They sense that something inside him cannot be moved by noise. And then comes the moment that truly tests this principle. Not online, not with strangers, but with the people closest to you. Principle 3. The iron silence. Most men use words to manage other people's emotions. They over-explain. They justify. They apologize for things that need no apology. They text long paragraphs at midnight trying to fix what a simple boundary would have prevented. They speak when they should be silent, and go silent when they should speak clearly. This is not kindness. It is a lack of self-authority. The Stoic man understands that words are tools, not releases. He does not speak to feel better. He does not speak to be understood at all costs. He speaks when speech serves a purpose. And when it does not, when the conversation has become circular, when the argument is fueled by ego rather than truth, when someone is testing him with noise, he goes quiet. Completely quiet. And his silence communicates more than any paragraph could. Think about the last workplace meeting where everything devolved into people speaking to seem important. Everyone talked. Nobody said anything. The man who sat still, who spoke once and only once, with precision and calm, that man was heard. Not because he was louder. Because he was deliberate. Because every word he used was intentional, and people could feel that economy of language as a form of power. Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. Seneca. The discipline here is what the Stoics called rational speech. Before you speak, ask 3 questions. Is it true? Is it necessary? Does it improve upon the silence? If you cannot answer yes to at least 2 of these, you remain quiet. Practice this for 1 week. Notice how much noise you are generating. Notice how much cleaner your relationships become when you stop using words to manage anxiety and start using them only when they carry real weight. This is not about being cold. This is not about becoming unreachable. It is about becoming someone whose presence carries gravity. Someone whose silence is respected. Someone who, when they do speak, makes the room listen, not because they demanded it, but because they earned it by being quiet when it mattered. But there is a deeper silence that the Stoics demanded. A silence not of the mouth, but of the ego. Principle 4. The death of the performance. In 2026, the world has been redesigned around the performance of a life rather than the living of one. Every meal photographed. Every achievement shared before it has even been processed internally. Every struggle curated into content. And the brutal truth, the one that most men sense but refuse to examine, is that the more you perform your life for others, the less you actually live it. The audience becomes the purpose. And purpose built on an audience is the most fragile thing a man can have. Marcus Aurelius kept a private journal. He wrote it for no one. There was no audience. No likes. No followers. Just a man, alone with his failures and his philosophy, holding himself accountable in the dark. That journal, what we now call meditations, was never meant to be published. It was simply a man refusing to perform and choosing instead to be real, even when no one was watching. Especially when no one was watching. The question the Stoic man asks himself is not, how do I appear? It is, what am I actually building? Not your follower count. Most men are building a performance. You are building a character. Most men optimize for how they appear under pressure. You are practicing how you actually behave under pressure, alone, with no one watching and nothing to gain. That is the invisible work, and it is the only work that produces anything real. And yet, even men who have conquered the performance still face one final battle. The battle that comes not from outside, but from the part of you that already knows what you should do and still hesitates. Section 6, Principle 5, the voluntary hard thing. Seneca practiced something radical. By modern standards, it would look almost insane. Periodically, deliberately, he would live for a few days as if he had nothing. Simple food, rough clothes, no comforts. Not because he was poor, he was one of the wealthiest men in Rome, but because he wanted to know, with certainty, that he could survive without what he had. He called it practicing poverty. He called it the training of the soul against fear. In 2026, you do not need to wear rough clothes, but the principle is more urgent than ever, because comfort has never been more available and resistance has never been more optional. You can avoid every difficult conversation with a text instead of a call. You can outsource every challenge with an app. You can numb every discomfort with a screen. The world is architected to keep you comfortable and, therefore, soft. The Stoic man deliberately reverses this. He takes the difficult conversation instead of the text. He trains when he does not feel like training. He sits with boredom instead of reaching for the phone. He does the hard thing first, not because it is efficient, but because choosing difficulty voluntarily is the only way to build a mind that does not collapse when difficulty arrives involuntarily. And it always arrives. This is not punishment. This is inoculation. A man who has practiced discomfort is not threatened by it when it appears uninvited. A man who has voluntarily sat in silence is not afraid of it when the noise stops. A man who has chosen the hard path before does not hesitate when the hard path is the only path left. He has already been there. He already knows he survives it. There is one more principle, the most counterintuitive of all, and it is the one that separates men who study Stoicism from men who actually live it. Principle 6, the Amor Fati, love what is. There will come a moment, perhaps it already has, when something you built collapses. A relationship you invested years in ends. A career path closes. A plan you architected carefully falls apart for reasons entirely outside your control. And in that moment, the world will offer you two responses. Most men choose the first: resistance, bitterness, the obsessive replaying of what could have been different, the anger at the universe for not cooperating with your plan. The Stoic man chooses the second response. Not passive acceptance. Not resignation. Something far more powerful and far more rare. He looks at what has happened, all of it, including the pain, the loss, the failure, and he chooses it, not because it is what he wanted, but because it is what is. He says, "This is the material I have been given. This is the obstacle that is now the path. What can I build from this?" Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire during plague, war, and personal tragedy. He lost children. He faced betrayal from those he trusted. He governed during some of the worst circumstances in Roman history, and he did not waste time wishing the circumstances were different. He used them. He wrote in his journal, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is Amor Fati, the love of fate. Not tolerance. Not endurance. Love. Love everything that happens to you. Marcus Aurelius. In practice, this means retraining how you define a bad day. When your pitch is rejected in a meeting, when your message is left on read, when your body gives out before your goal does, the Stoic does not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" He asks, "What is this asking of me? What strength is this moment demanding that I have not yet developed?" Because the universe does not send you what you want. It sends you what you need to become who you are meant to be. This is the final and most powerful shift in identity. You stop being a man who needs things to go right in order to feel strong. You become a man who uses everything, especially what goes wrong, to become stronger. And when that shift happens, nothing external can truly diminish you. Not failure, not rejection, not loss, not the collapse of plans. Because you have stopped depending on circumstances for your identity. Your identity is the discipline itself. Tonight, before you sleep, take 5 minutes. No phone. No noise. Sit with 3 questions, the same questions Marcus Aurelius asked himself at the end of every day. What did I do today that aligned with the man I want to be? Where did I react when I should have held still? And what did today teach me that I was not expecting to learn? Do not write long answers. Do not overanalyze. Just ask. Sit in the question. Let the silence respond. This 5-minute practice, done consistently for 30 days, will change the architecture of how you process your life. Not because it is magic. Because repetition of reflection builds the same neural pathways that repetition of anything else builds. You are literally retraining your brain to pause, assess, and choose, instead of react, perform, and collapse. Most men will watch this video and feel something. Then they will scroll to the next thing and feel nothing 10 minutes later. You are not most men. That is not a compliment. It is a responsibility. Feeling something here means nothing if it does not translate into the quiet, private, unglamorous work of becoming. The work that nobody films. The discipline that earns no likes. The character built in the dark. If this channel speaks to the man you are becoming, not the man you were, not the man performing for the world, but the man being forged in silence, then this is where you belong. Subscribe not for content. Subscribe because curating what enters your mind is itself a Stoic act. Every choice about what you consume is a choice about who you are building. Choose carefully. Choose deliberately. Choose Stoic phase.